This is KamehaRadio, a Dragon Ball podcast. Welcome back, everybody, after a very long hiatus that we've had. If you are not aware of why we were on hiatus, there will be a video prior to this one that you can go and check out. But for all intents and purposes, we are back. And joining me today, unfortunately, David was not able to join us for today's podcast. So instead, we got Phil Plays TCG filling in for him today. What's up, Phil?
Oh, not much, man. I'm excited. Hope you're doing fantastic.
Yeah, things have been really good. Very busy. Lots of Dragon Ball stuff going on in the background.
So much.
So it's way too much. But yeah, so in today's episode, we are going to be talking about Dragon Ball Daima. Dragon Ball Daima just had its finale. We're not going to go into spoilers. That'll be talked about in a later episode, just so everyone can have a chance to get caught up on the series. And I don't want to necessarily be involved in in people being upset that we spoiled them on the series in any way. But we're going to talk about Dragon Ball Daima, what our overall thoughts on Daima were, and talk about some of our favorite non-spoiler moments. And then we'll be jumping into a Set 5 discussion and talking about Set 5 of Fusion World and how we've been feeling about that. So yeah, Phil, how's Daima been? How was Daima in its entirety for you?
So I'm still trying to process it, like we were talking about before recording. It's, as a fan, like what I grew up on was Dragon Ball Z. I didn't even realize there was an OG Dragon Ball until much later. So my first instinct, my first exposure to Dragon Ball as a whole was Dragon Ball Z, and I feel like that kind of shaped my whole perspective around the Dragon Ball franchise. And then of course we got GT, which kind of kept up with that serious tone. So of course I went back and watched OG Dragon Ball, and I like it. It's of course it's Dragon Ball. It's good stuff, but there's obviously a huge tonal shift between the two shows, Dragon Ball Z and OG Dragon Ball. And I feel like Toriyama, his idea going into this, and as a whole, Daima is Toriyama at his best. I think it is Toriyama letting him. It's letting him do whatever he wants, letting his creativity flow. It's good. I think Daima as a whole is a great series of Dragon Ball, and the fact that it's only 20 episodes can be a good thing or a bad thing depending on who you are. But I feel like it tells a very good story in those 20 episodes. Sure, it kind of drags a little bit in certain spots. I feel like there's certain reoccurring gags that happen too often, like the damaged spaceship. Like, no offense, that thing went down about like half the episode.
Way too many times.
Way too many times. There were some amazingly hype moments in the show. Obviously, if you're watching this, you're probably caught up at least episode 19. I imagine.
Yeah. I'd say we can probably talk about because I mean, the big reveal of what happens at the end doesn't really like it happens a lot sooner than episode 19. So
we won't talk about we won't talk about the last episode, but like halfway through the series, like episode 10 or 9 or something like that, we get Vegeta getting his big old surprise transformation. And as much as I don't like the way it looks, I feel like he did the form justice, at least by getting its first canon win, which is hilarious. But and then there are other hype moments, like of course near the end, the last few episodes were absolutely peak. As a Dragon Ball Z fan, I loved that. As a GT fan, a lot of people would like that, obviously. As a whole, I think Daima is a fantastic show. But I will die on this hill that Toriyama watched GT and was like, let me have a crack at that. Let me try doing GT, because he did that with the OG Broly movie.
Yep.
But, he put his spin on it, and we love it. And this is absolutely him taking GT and throwing his spin on it. There's too many things that are just too similar to GT storytelling, characters, and of course what we see at the end with certain forms being introduced.
Yeah.
That were specifically GT. I'll die on this hill. Daima is just Toriyama's GT, but overall, I really enjoyed the show as a whole.
Yeah, I think there was some interview, I think with Ioku, who heads the the Capsule Corporation company in Japan. Yeah, he came out and I think he's said in interviews that that basically there was a lot of GT inspired stuff thrown into Daima for a reason. Like it's a purposeful inclusion. Um,
Mhm.
Now, I mean, does that make GT canon? I mean, I guess it really depends on who ends up taking the helm after Toriyama's passing. But
If they make GT canon, the amount of gymnastics and hoops they'd have to jump through in order to somehow link the shows together, I just, yeah, I don't know.
I don't
I just
think
don't see it.
I don't think that's that as difficult as people kind of make it out to be, because we got Star Wars, for example. Like there's all these little side stories thrown in between episodes 3 and 4, and they got everything in the Clone Wars that happens like in between 2 and 3, and it's like there's all these
Yeah.
little stories that explain things that happen later on that like somehow do weave relatively well and are made after the fact from those movies. So for Dragon Ball, I think that's the beauty of Dragon Ball in that sense, is just that Dragon Ball is so simplistic in its nature that
Right.
when there are issues that arise when it comes to canon or story direction and stuff like that, I think there is easy ways to get around a lot of those loopholes and quote unquote retcons that people have issues with. So I think with a lot of the stuff that people have issues with in Daima, I think it can be rectified. It probably will be rectified down the line.
Yeah.
It will be a matter of how, but I think with how simple it is, I think they can do it. I think they can make that work.
I hope so, because like I'm a stickler when it comes to lore and like keeping things making sense in a show, because when something pops up that's like, hey, this doesn't make sense, I need an explanation as to why this happens, because now this happens. Like, how do we get from point A to point B type deal?
Yeah.
And most of the time, I feel like they do a really good job of explaining it. I am certainly going to be. I'm very curious on how they're going to address certain plot holes in this that create like certain things in Daima that create plot holes in Super, which we all know the real reason is because Super was made well before Daima.
Yeah.
The ideas in Daima weren't there, so it makes sense. But I saw a meme today of it said Toyotaro looking at all of his manga notes, now having to incorporate all of Toriyama's Daima lore into his manga now. It's just Goku just looking up at the sky happy, but we all know it's like, oh, he's gonna be putting in work
Yeah.
now.
So I have faith in Toyotaro, but I also do feel bad for him too, because he has a humongous task in front of him.
Right.
Now, I mean, but it really does depend, because obviously Dragon Ball is still having licensing issues when it comes to
Yep.
Shueisha, Toei, Dragon Ball Corporation. We know Toyotaro is in charge of manga, but like, is he gonna get more of a bigger title bump? Like, is he going to be in charge of anime going forward too? Who's running the anime going forward? And because as far as we know, it's just Toyotaro is still just sticking to the manga. Um,
So yeah, he absolutely is. But did you ever hear? There was an interview I read. For the life of me, can't remember where it was, but I remember reading that for the most part, Toriyama would give him bullet points. He was like,
yeah,
This is how it starts. This is how it ends. I need these few things to happen in between, but for the most part, I'm going to let you decide how you want to do it. And obviously, you can tell from the manga and anime, a lot of similar points were made in each one, but there's differences on how we get from point A to point Z,
yeah,
and I think that's a really cool thing, because technically both the anime and the manga are canon. They have the same big events, they have the same little events, but for the most part, it's just a different journey getting to that point. And
yeah,
Toriyama did specify that while he gave him these bullet points, Toyotaro was the one who mainly wrote the the things that happened. So Toriyama didn't have as much input into Super that Toyotaro did.
yeah,
And he actually made a joke about how Toyotaro was more of the father of Dragon Ball Super than Toriyama was.
yeah,
which I think is kind of cool because you can think back on it with obviously his illness, and he probably was taking more of a step back, trying to live his life as much as he could. He probably gave most of that responsibility to Toyotaro.
Yeah.
Because he picked him for a reason, obviously, because his artistic skill was amazing.
Yeah. In terms of like copycat artists, that's a little disrespectful, I guess, to say. I don't mean anything negative about it, but as a copycat artist, in terms of like how he's able to replicate Toriyama's like style, is second to none. Like he is the perfect person, I think, to pick up after Toriyama in terms of the drawing style.
Yeah, and you can tell Toyotaro has kind of put his own fan-made creations into Super, because a lot of people don't realize this, but he did. I'm pretty sure that he did the sketches for like Gohan Blanco or Gohan White.
Yeah.
Which now we have Beast Gohan, which bears a striking resemblance to a lot of that, fan-made art.
Yeah.
There's just a whole lot of things he's kind of thrown in there that he, as a fan manga artist, at his start, he loves Dragon Ball. He loves to get the fans what they want. And hell, I don't know if you saw the recent one-off chapter that came out.
I did.
Earlier this month.
Yeah.
He made a Lubu canon.
Yeah, like I thought that was really cool.
Right, I had no idea. That was not on my bucket list for 2025. But he made an off filler character canon again, and that's something that I've noticed in Super they've been doing, is bringing in these fan favorite characters from filler into canon, and so we don't know, like the possibilities are endless.
Yeah,
like we could get cooler. We could get a canon version of Janemba, Bojack, like. But sorry, I probably went off a little tangent there. But overall, I think Toyotaro, the fact that we got that one-off manga, I feel like we're close to getting the story back on track. I feel like there probably was a lot going on about like how the story is going to be told going forward. He probably wanted to, really take all of Toriyama's notes about Daima, and he's probably taking a lot of that time to incorporate his stuff, his lore that he introduced Daima into the Super lore.
Yeah.
And there's probably a lot of legal stuff in the background too, but I want to believe mostly it's him trying to take the last his sensei's last notes.
Yeah.
And he's trying to incorporate all of that, and I have faith in him. I think it's going to be an amazing story, and we should all just let Toyotaro cook.
Yeah, just let him do his thing. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just, it'll just take time. And I think he's already shown us in the Moro arc and the Granola arc, and his adaptation of the Super movie and stuff like that, that he's perfectly capable of putting out a cohesive narrative with each of these things, and that's with the guidance of Toriyama backing him up with the bullet points, like you said. So it will be interesting to see, like, now that he's got full reign of how he wants to progress the narrative. It will be interesting to see how that looks without the guidance of Toriyama. But I feel like obviously Daima exists for a reason, and so. It exists for a reason. It has to exist for a reason. It can't just exist because we got to sell more merchandise.
Right, exactly. Toriyama would not want the story to be created just to, sell merchandise. Yeah. That wasn't his.
He wouldn't be as involved as he was if it was just about merchandise, I don't think. I think a lot of I like Super. I like Dragon Ball Super a lot, but I think part of it is probably health reasons, but the other part of it, I think, too, is that he didn't want to be as involved in it, because obviously a lot of the stuff that happens in Super, you could pretty much culminate to being for mostly merchandise for the most part.
Oh yeah, no, for sure, 100%. Daima feels like a passion project, while Super just kind of feels like almost at this point in time feels like a forced continuation of the story for more merchandise, kind of like how GT, which was a forced sequel.
Yeah, GT was also meant to push sales and
Yep.
and merchandise and everything else as well. Yeah, I agree with that.
Now, there is a funny timeline, though, that I saw that people are like, here's how you explain everything. You have Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball, then Dragon Ball Z, then it splits off into two separate timelines.
Yep.
You got, I love how you went down.
I know exactly what meme you're talking about.
It's to go GT, nothing. Then it's Super, and then the manga, and then the Broly movie, and then superhero, and it's just like, and Daima's in there too. Like and that makes sense. Yeah, if you want to think of like two different timelines, because we know the multiverse exists in Dragon Ball, like not just the fact that there's 12 universes, but just like in the Cell Saga, we saw that this Cell's from this timeline, this Trunks is from this timeline. Cell killed the Trunks in this timeline.
Yeah, parallel universes. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm down for either one. I love all of it as a whole. There's good and bad in every series. But yeah, it's still good.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic series.
Yeah, I really enjoyed my time with Daima. I'm more like, in terms of like what kind of Dragon Ball fan I am, like, I guess if some people wanted to look at it this way, I'm the guy that like sees content, consumes more content. Kind of guy.
Just don't ask questions.
Don't ask questions. But I'm a little bit more than that. Like, when I look at Dragon Ball, I look at it from the perspective of Toriyama. Like, regardless, he was a very laid back writer. He was a very laid back writer that wanted to he didn't really ever have a plan in terms of how he wanted the story to progress. He kind of just wrote things as they kind of came into being, more or less for convenience. And
right.
So the way that I see Daima is that, like, yeah, there's some plot contrivances and issues that I'm hoping do get addressed down the line. Like the one that sticks out to me the most, like, I know a lot of people talk about like, the new transformations and how does that work in Super, because they aren't in Super and all, and it's like, okay, but the things that I'm more concerned about is like Shin and Kibito are still unfused.
Yep.
So
that's a plot point.
So I mean, is it a big deal? I wouldn't say it's necessarily a big deal, but it does like raise questions. It does make you think like, okay, so like Daima has to connect to Super in some way. Like it's shown in the show that it connects because of that one episode where they talk about everyone leaving the demon realm and the universe is being formed in their plane of existence.
Right.
Like it's connected. So people saying that it's not connected, I like are just coping, I think. But
there are, now I will say, the whole, because that episode you're talking about where they show all the different 12 Kais. Now, we know that those Kais were not the ones that originally left the demon realm.
Yes.
We know that there were Kais before them, because we have Elder Kai, obviously, that is 15 generations ago. And, he was the Supreme Kai 15 generations ago, which is like, I'm not sure how long that is exactly, but that's a long time ago.
Considering that the Kais can practically live forever. So, yeah.
Right. Now, don't get me wrong, there's just so many things about Toriyama's writing that I have to question sometimes, just because I'm like, wait a minute, he says this, but what about this? But what about this? And then it's just kind of like, if you don't think about it too hard, it's fine.
Yeah. Well, and that's my approach usually when it comes to Dragon Ball, is like I look at it, and obviously the things that make sense, and we can question the things that don't 100% make sense, but for the most part it's don't think about it too hard, like you said. Like that's probably exactly Toriyama's mindset when it came to writing everything else as well. So like, I think us as fans probably need to look at it from that perspective too. Yeah. Now after Daima and whoever takes up the helm, whoever ends up going forward with it, we might have to look at it from their perspective as opposed to Toriyama's perspective. But
right.
But I'm going.
Can I say one thing that this is not really a spoiler, but like one of my biggest disappointments with Daima. This is not a spoiler. Just, I guess, screw Gohan.
Yeah, Gohan is like non-existent at all. It's surprising.
He doesn't exist. Like, I was really hoping. I was really hoping that near the end of the series he would just pop in at the last second to help out, because at the end of Dragon Ball Z, he is technically the strongest unfused fighter.
Yeah.
Like, he could have really helped everybody at the end of the fight, but and especially with Piccolo being there, like,
Yeah.
I would think like Gohan would have found, like, maybe they Capito or somebody found some way to bring him into the demon realm and like get him into the fight at the last second. That would have been super cool to see, like, Mystic Gohan fighting a little bit alongside like SS3 Vegeta and SS4 Goku. Like, that would have been super
Yeah.
cool. But we don't even get a mention of Gohan. I thought we'd even get like an end credit scene showing like what happened to Gohan or where Gohan was during all this.
Yeah, that's something that I would have probably liked to see, was like, even if he was not involved in the fighting at all. I wouldn't, because at that point in the timeline and the story, like, he's probably in college or finishing college courses. It's right before he starts getting into his conferences that he loves so much. So like at that point in time, like, he's not really a fighter at all. So like I figured he wouldn't be involved in the action, but to at least acknowledge or see that, like, because like I'm thinking in my head, like, obviously everyone got turned into kids at the beginning of the series. So I'm just imagining like Gohan is like at one of his college courses at his final exam or something for college, and he's turned into a child mid test.
So funny to see.
Like, and then
Like,
just to see him go back to an adult, like in middle of class or something, like just something to kind of like infer that, like, oh yeah, he's here. He exists. He's just doing his own thing. Like, that would have been cool to see, but
just, it's so weird that we got no Gohan, because that was another big rumor going around that like maybe we're going into Daima and to seeing the demon world because it helps explain what Beast Gohan is. It explains what uh, Orange Piccolo is, like where they got their huge power boosts. And when you look at Beast Gohan, you think, okay, there's some little like demonic about him, you know, like he
the red
looks,
eyes, yeah.
yeah, the red eyes are a big giveaway, and his anger and his aggressiveness, like, I genuinely thought we were going to get some type of, you know, idea of like maybe Gohan acquired his beast power, like, or at least the seed of it was planted in Daima. But nope, Gohan's just somewhere.
Yeah,
We don't know where he's at.
I mean, we could maybe, because I mean, I guess we can talk about it a little bit, because it's not really spoiling the finale. I don't want to spoil the finale is the thing I don't want to spoil. It's, but like Super Saiyan 4.
It is badass form.
Yeah, it's a very badass form. But like obviously there's a design difference compared to the GT counterpart. But we see that like his eyes are red in this series too. So you could there could be a connection in the fact that like maybe Beast does in some way connect to the inner primal nature of like what of the Saiyans. We know Ozaru have the sharp pointy ears as well. So now Saiyans don't derive from the demon world that we know of, but there's a possibility of maybe some species or some character that left the demon realm with everything, and after the Saiyans culminated, maybe like the Ozaru is like a curse placed upon the Saiyans.
I like that theory. There's a lot of really cool theories that have originated from Daima, you know, in correlation to other aspects of the show too. I think that's been one of the best things to come out of Daima too, is just all the theory crafting.
Yeah, I will say that's probably like my favorite aspect, is like there's so much that we could either infer or speculate on from this series. And that's more or less what I enjoy out of a story, is like if you're not going to give us all the details, then let me kind of like mess with the ideas in my head and kind of get a grand scope, and then obviously depending on how that ends up being answered in the series, if at all, will obviously change that perspective a little bit, but it'll
Right.
But no, Daima's been a lot of fun. To the heart of it, it feels like OG Dragon Ball, which was always Toriyama's favorite manner of like storytelling.
Right.
He loved the simplistic adventure. He never planned for for Dragon Ball to go into the more action oriented fight sequences that it did end up going into. But he rolled with it anyway, because that's what obviously the readers enjoyed, and that's what the readers love to read. the action in the series, I agree with you in the sense that there are like there's maybe like 3 episodes in the entirety of the series that I was like, does this really need to be here? Or like, could we not pick up the pace just a little bit more? Like there were some very dull episodes in this series, but it's the minority. It's like a very small portion of the series. And then all the action scenes, all the fight sequences were just top notch. And
oh yeah,
the animation levels for everything was fantastic. The Tamagami, like, as great as the finale episode was in terms of animation for the fight, as episode 19 was for the fights in that, I still think that the Tamagami 3 fight is still the best animated, like, one of the bunch.
really?
I think so. I think only because like the finale episode, trying to avoid any spoilers, the finale episode, like, it's like we're getting the latter end of the fight that started in episode 19. And so it's not it doesn't encompass the whole episode, whereas the Tamagami 3 fight practically was the entire episode. So for me, like, that break in the action kind of takes me away from it a little bit. I think if they would have, like, maybe taken the last end of that fight at the finale, put it into episode 19, made it like almost an hour-long episode, and then the finale of the show was, like, obviously just them wrapping it all up. Maybe maybe they could have used that extra time in the final episode to explain some things. But would have probably made it a little bit better. But overall, yeah, I mean, Daima, I think, is... I'm not sure, like, if I were to, like, put it on a scale, like on a tier list, where I would rank everything.
That's tough, because it's going to take some time to really, like, solidify my opinions about this show. There's a lot of good. There's a little more bad than I was hoping for, but overall, like, as a 20 episode show, this definitely had more good than bad, or at least I feel like the good outweighed the bad.
Yeah.
The animation, like you mentioned, is just whoever. I can't think of the artist or the director for the animation in this one, but, like, holy crap, get him on the Super series next. Like, you have to get this guy. He is amazing. The quality of his animations topped even, like, the Broly movie animations, which I thought were already top tier. There's so much happening, and Dragon Ball has never looked as good as it does in this series. And we can say, like, a Super had some of the worst animation the series ever had, and then had some great animation episodes too. But yeah, overall, like, the scene where Goku goes, like, he reenacts the this is all my Super Saiyan forms scene that was in Dragon Ball Z in the Buu Saga. Oh my god,
that was so clean.
I loved that. Yeah, it was so clean. Everything looked so good. And they redo shot for shot for some of those sequences too, and it's so cool to see, like, the updated animations. And then he's like, and one more, and then just goes into Super Saiyan 4 when nobody was expecting him to do it, because we were all like, oh, Neva had to be the one to push him to Super Saiyan 4.
Yeah,
and then he just does it. We're like, oh, he can do it. And what do you think of Super Saiyan 4's redesign, though? Like, what do you think of the monkey hands?
I will say, like, I am not a big proprietor of GT. Like, I don't like GT at all. There's certain things in GT that I enjoy. Super Saiyan 4's design being one of them. It is one of the coolest forms in the franchise. It is such a clean aesthetic. And obviously the way that Nozawa and like Sean Schemmel, like, portrayed that character is just sick. However, I will say that I think I might prefer the Daima form better than the GT look.
Oh, okay.
The one thing that I never really quite understood was how Super Saiyan 4 Goku and GT still had the black hair when the rest of the hair that was on his body turned the pink that it was.
Right.
It kind of goes against the way that every other form that came before it like was shown. And so obviously the aura gives him, the aura gave him like the gold glow, the hair turned gold, and everything else. It was uniform. Like all Super Saiyan to Super Saiyan 3 was uniform in terms of its color design, and then Super Saiyan 4 comes along, and it's a cool looking form, but it feels inconsistent.
So I can actually explain that. In
Please do.
one of the one of the Daizenshu's actually clarify that Super Saiyan 4 is not technically a Super Saiyan form. It's off because when you look at a Saiyan's transformation, you have two branching paths. You have the Ozaru path and you have the Super Saiyan path. Super Saiyan 4 is actually in the Ozaru path.
Okay.
It's not in the standard Super Saiyan path because Super Saiyan 1, 2, 3, and then actually, surprisingly enough, Super Saiyan God is in that same lineage. But Ozaru, the Ozaru path is Ozaru, Golden Ozaru, Super Saiyan 4.
So I can understand that reasoning. That makes sense. But to that same effect, it kind of throws me off even more because even like before they shifted into Super Saiyan 4, they had to go into the Golden Great Ape. Golden Great Ape is completely gold, right?
Yep.
So
the
it's
Super Saiyan equivalent.
yeah, like it's like so like the color the coloring of the Golden Great Ape is uniform all the way around, and then he reverts back into his humanoid body as Super Saiyan 4, but then you got the black hair with the red fur. Like it's still a cool design, and I don't hate the design by any means. But when I look at the Daima Super Saiyan 4, like it's uniform. It still looks like GT Super Saiyan 4 Goku. Like the hairstyle is the exact same way. The fur on the body is the exact same way. If we look at it from because I don't think it unless one of the Daizenshu volumes like explain it too. You could probably enlighten me if that is the case. But I know a lot of people talk about how Super Saiyan 4 like embodies like the Ozaru. In the primal instinct of what the Saiyans are, to do that. But like you look at the Daima version, and doesn't that not look primal? Like it
looks more primal.
Yeah, I feel like that fits that theme so much better than what the GT version did. The monkey paws I think are kind of a cool design choice. I know a lot of people like don't like Orange Piccolo for a number of reasons, but like I love that the design choice is different from everything else. It's the same way, I know you don't like it either, but like the Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta, like I know you don't like the design, but I like that it's different and it separates it from everybody else. And I could apply that logic to the Super Saiyan 4 Daima Goku as well, because it's different from everything else that kind of came before it.
Yeah. No, I can understand that. I think that a lot of people were hoping that the red fur, like the red hair and the red eyes that we get in Daima Super Saiyan 4 was linked in some way to Super Saiyan God as well, because the shade of red for both of their hairs are very similar. They have the same red eyes. There's a lot more theory involving that, and that's why I really like this other theory that Dragon Ball Daima was all just Beerus. Is the dream that Beerus had, or at least Beerus saw what happened in the Demon Realm, and that's where he's like, oh, Super Saiyan God, red hair. That's all he could really tell from that. Different line of thinking though, but no, like it's good. At first I was like, I don't really like this. I like the original Super Saiyan 4 more, but I think now I can respect both designs.
Yeah.
I do love how during the transformation into adulthood, Goku actually rips off his shirt,
as if he knows,
the final transformation, because it's like, well, we're just gonna just have him rip off his shirt, so that explains why he doesn't have a shirt.
Look, the fur is gonna get very itchy under there during the fight.
Exactly.
He needs to make sure that he doesn't have any distractions.
Exactly. Like Super Saiyan 3 has never looked better in this series. Super Saiyan 4 absolutely just peaked in this series too. I think Super Saiyan 4 looked like overall like the vibe and the aura of Super Saiyan 4 was better in this series than I will say it was in GT.
Yeah.
Like when you look, I actually watched a video recently going back over like Super Saiyan 4 in GT and what it accomplished. Super Saiyan 4 really didn't do much. Like when you watch GT, you probably thinking like with rose-colored glasses, like, oh, Super Saiyan 4 dominated. No, it did not.
Nope.
It actually did probably worse than Super Saiyan 3 did
Yeah.
in terms of like canonic wins. Um, Super Saiyan 4 was just there as a power boost and nothing more. It
Yeah.
did not get any wins.
Yeah. And I think, and and a lot of people, I think there will be a lot of discussion about it going forward too, because obviously I agree with you in that Super Saiyan 4, as cool as it is in GT, it didn't do much. But you could also say the same thing probably about Super Saiyan 4 in Daima as well.
Oh yeah.
To a degree.
It looked good. It looks so good.
It does look good. But yeah. So I know you said you don't like Vegeta's Super Saiyan 3, but now that you see him in his adult form with Super Saiyan 3, does that feel a little better to you than him being in kid form? Like, how does that? What are your thoughts on that? Slightly
Slightly better. Like I was really hoping when he transformed, his hair would drop down a little, like it'd fall down a little bit and be like, okay, maybe because he was a kid, his hair was sticking up in that way. But then we saw Goku Super Saiyan 3 as a kid, and we're like, oh nope, it's just Vegeta, being Vegeta. I think as an adult, yeah, it looks a little bit better. I still don't know why he changes up his fighting style so tremendously, where like now he just keeps his hands, his arms folded.
That's a
at
good
all times.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like even in like episode 19, like it was still like he was, I don't want to say he was fighting reserved, but like he was kind of limiting his way of fighting to an extent. And
Yeah, people thought like, oh, that's where Vegito gets his fighting style, because Vegito likes to cross his arms a
Yeah.
lot and fight with his feet, but Vegeta also now does that, so I guess that makes sense why Vegito. Maybe that was a callback or like a kind of fun Easter egg for Vegito fans. Like, there it is. That's why he fights like that.
what if him like crossing his arms is the new thumb pose? Like what if
Oh.
what if he turns Super Saiyan 3 and now he thinks he's like all this, he's hot shit now, and so he feels like he doesn't have to utilize everything to
Oh my god!
in the fight.
My coworker, you might have a point. My coworker, who's not even a big fan of Dragon Ball, he even knows the thumbs up pose. He's like, "Isn't that the pose that Vegeta does right before he gets beat?" I'm like, "Yep." Every time he sees that, he's like, "Oh, he's about to lose." Like, you can't do that pose, Vegeta. It's just not worth it.
Yeah, I think a lot of that probably is just like Vegeta's ego and letting that get in the way of which is why I think Ultra Ego is such a good form for him, because it's like if you're going to let your ego get in the way, then at least embody a form that's going to allow you to utilize your ego to make yourself better.
Exactly. I mean, it still doesn't get any wins, but you know what? It looks cool as hell. God dang it. One of these days we'll get, if the day that they animate Ultra Ego, we need this animation artist who did Daima, because it's gonna go hard. It's gonna break the internet again.
It'll work so well.
Oh man. But no, like I think I was really hoping to one of my hopes was to see them both fight in Super Saiyan 3, like at the same time.
I was kind of hoping for that too, yeah.
That would have been absolutely hype. There were so many moments I feel like that were overall that were kind of hyped up, or certain moments that you're like, okay, they're introducing this particular item or this particular way of thinking or this particular plot point early on, and it's going to resolve in some way later in the series.
Nope.
It's classic Toriyama misdirect.
Yep.
He wanted you to look at over here while he's like, hey, I'm doing stuff over here. That, I think that pissed off a lot of fans, though, from all the videos I've been watching, people's reaction about the final episode. And you're going to see this all over the like TikTok and anything with any video type essays. People are going to be like, this was the biggest fumble in all of Dragon Ball. Like, this ending was trash. This ending was bad. But it's like, it's because you had a expectation, and I am also at fault for this. I had my own expectations of what I thought was going to happen based off everything that had been shown off in the show. It's classic Toriyama misdirect. He wanted you to think A was going to happen when in fact it was G down here that was actually going to happen. Like, he was planning so much ahead of time. He wanted people to think one way just so he can surprise them with something completely out of left field.
Yeah. I mean, because I think I expected a lot of that too going into the finale. I won't talk about it too much just because I don't want to. I'm gonna get to a point where like I'm gonna say something I shouldn't. It's like,
I'm trying so hard. I'm trying so hard not to like say something where it's like, but like,
because what is a spoiler for some people compared to others? Like, is saying that something doesn't happen at the end of it a spoiler? Like, usually,
I feel like that's fine. It's like, oh, this doesn't happen. It's like, wait, hold on, then what does happen? Like, we're not telling them what happens. We're just telling them what doesn't happen.
yeah. Like, I don't see that as a spoiler, but I know some people will probably look at it as a spoiler. So I think the one thing we want to, since we're on the topic, I think this is the one thing that we might quote unquote spoiler. So if you're still listening in. And you don't necessarily want to get spoiled about something that doesn't happen in the show or in the finale. Let's say skip 5 minutes. Skip 5 minutes from now, because we'll talk about Fusion World in about 5 minutes. But just skip ahead 5 minutes, and we'll won't be talking about it. But yeah, I assumed that there was going to be a fusion as well.
The fuse bugs, they were there. They were talked about. They said it fuses 3 people. Guess who Goku had with him? 2 other people, Vegeta and Piccolo.
Did they?
Could have been an opportunity.
Did they specify that it fuses 3 people together? I think I might have missed that. If they said that.
Thought it did. Like the picture showed 3 people merging bodies, but that also could have been somebody that they could have just been like one merge into one, so it looked like 3 people.
Because I assumed he got 2 of every bug, basically.
Okay, no, you're right.
I thought
there was that big like leaked image going around of like Vegeta and Goku fusing. Vegeta's a Super Saiyan 3, he's a Super Saiyan 4. They fuse, and it's like Golden Super Saiyan 4. That got debunked because turns out it was literally the panel for panel shot of a scene that happened in the Future Trunks saga and Super. They just changed the character designs to look like Super Saiyan 3.
I was gonna say that those models did look familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so too. But yeah, no fusion. Even though we got told like, hey, these bugs are this is how you fuse in the Demon World. We could have gotten a new fusion.
Yeah. So I mean, I expected a fusion. My headcanon was that because my issue was that, okay, we already got Vegito, we already got Gogeta. So we're introducing a third means of fusion into the show between two people. How can you create a third fused identity between 2 characters that doesn't completely like meld with either of the other 2? So my headcanon was that the fusion bugs were like the essence of what the Potara earrings are. The Potara earrings derived from the Demon Realm, just like the Kaioshins did. And so like maybe, and the fusion bugs were green. Guess what's also green? The Potara earrings for Vegito. Or no, were they yellow? I can't remember. Did they change that in Super?
He's had 2 different earrings. He's had 2 different pairs of earrings before.
I was gonna say like I mean, one of those earrings was green. I knew I wasn't crazy.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Get this though. I think this would have been really funny. The name would have been Veku. Like, give Veku. We never got the name of the fat, like Gogeta. For some reason, Gogeta has 2 different names. Veku when he's the fat guy. Gogeta when he's fused perfectly. They didn't have that in the Broly movie, so it's not technically canon that the fat one's name is Veku.
Yeah.
This would have been a perfect opportunity for them to create a third fusion and name it Veku.
Yeah, I could agree with that. Give a canon version of Veku. That would be interesting. But it would be a matter of like, because it's again, how would you differentiate Veku from Vegito or Gogeta? Because I mean, Gogeta is clearly more of the personality of Vegeta, with the fighting style of Goku, whereas Vegito is the personality of Goku with the fighting style of Vegeta.
Man, see, I might have to disagree with that. I feel like they're both the same character at this point.
I mean, I've always looked at it differently because I mean, like when you see like I look at that one scene in Super where like Zamasu, I think Zamasu like I can't remember the scene, but like was that one scene where like Vegeto's looking at Zamasu and he's like, oh, like there's that face where his face just drops, and I'm like, that's Goku's face. Like
yeah, okay. I can see that.
like that's Goku's face. Like Vegeta wouldn't necessarily make like a face like that.
That's fair. Okay, I can see where you got that part. I guess I was thinking like DBZ Gogeta as like Goku's personality, with Vegito being Vegeta's. But then when we got Gogeta in Super, his personality was damn near identical to Vegito's.
Yeah.
Like he's a little more serious, but like not by much.
Yeah, because like I look at the face of Gogeta too, and I'm like that's Vegeta. Like that, like he's got this, like, and just the way that he talks feels more like Vegeta than Vegito does.
Right. Ooh, here's a fun one. In the comments, guys, who does each fusion character more so portray?
Yeah, that'll
Vegeta portray or Gogeta portray?
Yeah, that'll be an interesting point of discussion. But yeah, no, I mean, I assume Vegeta, like, so my headcanon was like, oh, if they do fuse in Daima, then we're gonna get Vegito in some way, because it just makes sense that that the fusion bugs would probably like replicate the Potara in some capacity, and we would just get Vegito. But we didn't get that, so it's like you said, it's a misdirect by Toriyama. But I think it's still cool because we didn't get a fusion of any kind, but now people can kind of speculate forever and ever about what that fusion would be. And they have like all these new characters that are introduced. They could do like a bunch of like we've seen a couple of fan arts of like Goku and Shin fusing with the fusion bugs and stuff like that. Yep. And that looked really cool. So like, I think while the fusion is just not getting that is disappointing, I think for the fan base to have these thoughts of what that fusion could look like, what that would even be, who could that be with, I think that's infinitely cooler than just getting something that we probably would have already seen before anyway. So
right, I can understand the misdirect. Maybe, who knows, maybe in the future we will get the fuse bugs back.
Maybe.
Yeah, who knows? Just all years down the line, they're like, "Hey, we got the fuse bugs." We're like, "Oh shit!" Like, coming out of nowhere.
Yeah. So, but no, I think Daima is overly hated right now for whatever reason people want to hate it for.
Right.
But I think it's going to. I think given some time, and I think depending on whatever the next Dragon Ball project is going to be, I think Daima will be looked back on favorably. I think so. I think you're right. I think right now people are just kind of disappointed that it didn't end the way they thought it would. They're mad that things didn't happen that they hoped would. But overall, I'm even to fault. I think after sleeping on the episode, I think I see it in a much better light than I did originally. And yeah, we'll just have to see where it goes. Like, we're not getting season 2, more than likely. Yeah. It's just going to be something where we see something about Daima down the line. Yeah, Daima is getting the Phantom Menace treatment right now, and eventually it will be loved. So
exactly.
But that'll end our Daima discussion. Let's jump into Fusion World. Phil, how's Fusion World Set 5 been for you?
Oh my god, it's been slapping, dude. Like that. It's been freaking awesome. Set 5. I know I said something like this in Set 4, where like Set 4 is going to change the meta. Nah, Set 4 did change the meta a bit, but Set 5 is just a completely different beast. There's so many decks that got boosts. There's so many playable decks of every color. Sure, that would be like a better deck of each color, but just overall, there's so many good competitive and viable decks to play. It's just I built 4 new decks for locals today, which is another thing. I'm getting doing locals for the first time in like 3 months.
Yeah.
It's gonna be awesome. I'm super excited. I got 4 decks to try out. I'm probably gonna figure out which one to play on the way there, but it's great. It's awesome. There are so many reasons to hop into this game with like the client, like they're doing a lot of cool things with the online client. They're doing so many things for like the competitive tournament scene. Regionals are getting announced. Like right now, it is the best time to hop into Fusion World. But what do you think about Set 5?
Yeah, I agree. I feel like for anybody who wants to get into the game that hasn't already, I think now is probably the best time to do it. You got like obviously like right now. I agree with you in the sense that like set 4 changed the meta, but I think it changed it to the sense that like it balanced the game out.
Yeah.
Because set 2 obviously threw a wrench, I think, in how the game was supposed to perform. And so far I think it's been like just we're on we're on recovery mode right now. We're trying to repair the damage done. And set 3 introduced Black. Black was cool, but Black was very strong when it first came out. So like in terms of like balancing, like Blue was fine. Like it was like I think it was probably the best color outright. I think when set 3 dropped, but like it wasn't like it didn't like hit Halo Coup was kind of lacking a little bit.
Yep.
Vegeta was still doing the same thing he was doing in set 2. Trunks was doing the same thing he was doing in set 2. Like there really wasn't like much differentiating from set 2 to 3. But then set 4 came out and like every deck got support in some capacity. Every deck felt pretty even for the most part. With, like you said, colors being different. And now we're in set 5. In set 5, definitely there is a power creep that happened between set 4s and 5. The meta is a lot faster now than it was last set, which I think is honestly a good thing because I hate playing games where you go turtle mode. If a deck here or there relies on playing turtle mode to perform well, like that's fine. But like when every deck is doing it, it feels bad. But now we have proper decks that, okay, these decks go turtle mode. These decks are full on blitz. These decks are meant to play the middle ground and kind of do a little of both. I think the meta is in a really, really good place right now. There was there was discussion about Janemba being tier 0. I don't see him as tier 0.
He's good.
He's really good.
Incredibly powerful, but it's not as easy as Top Coup was to pilot. You actually have to really think about your moves here. You think about where your play lines are. And as somebody who has been testing Janemba a lot, I've made mistakes. I'm going too fast or I'm going too slow. You got to find the right way to play against every matchup because if you don't play your matchups perfectly, the deck is not going to do as well. You can't rely on like the Frieza secret rare. You can't rely on the Bio Brolys to carry your win. You actually have to put a lot of thought behind it.
Yeah.
So I do think Janemba is really, really good. He's absolutely one of the best leaders and one of the best decks to play, but he's not. I don't think he's the definitive deck anymore.
Yeah, I would almost argue, at least from my experience on the client, I would almost argue that Super Boo has a resurgence. I think Super Boo is probably better than Janemba right now.
Ooh, I haven't seen that. I haven't played against Super Boo yet on the client in a while, so.
Because Super Boo runs a lot of what Janemba's running. He's running the 3-cost Janemba.
Oh, wow, okay.
He can run the 3-cost Janemba, I should say. He's a Self-Awakener to help you get down to 4 to do what you need to do. He's setting an energy. He's resting something on board, so he's playing the aggro portion while also controlling.
Okay.
I've seen some people running the Secret Rare Frieza in Super Boo. And yeah, you're not getting that removal effect off in the beginning, but when if you think about it, you play Barrier Frieza on turn 4, and next turn you're going to 5 energy, and you use the ability to remove something off, and then you're doing your 3-cost stuff with Boo anyway.
You're right.
So you're still sticking to the 3-cost support that Boo is doing, but now you have stronger bodies that you can play out that also helps to remove your opponent's board in the same vein too, while also removing your opponent's hand. It's there's so many different new cards that are thrown in there. I think some people are still running the Fierce Hyper Beam.
Fierce Hyper Beam is really cool.
Yeah, that's a really cool card. Super Boo, I think, is running that with Final Explosion.
Oh god.
If it can't remove your board, it's going to freeze your board down. So, Super Boo, I think is just, I think Super Boo might be the best yellow deck in this set. I think the only reason I say that too is like you said, Janemba needs a really good pilot. it needs a really good pilot to really be able to pop off. It's not as easy as just cheating stuff out for cheap and just swinging into your opponent.
Right. The
So
lack of a draw on the backside really hurts that deck a lot.
yeah,
Where like you need to have a constant draw engine going because eventually you will just run out of steam and you just won't have cards in hand because you don't draw unless you tap 2 energy. And sure, that's fine, but a lot of times people will just play cards in order to get the most out of their Janemba's ability, but then it's like, oh, I didn't draw this turn, and I didn't have a card that drew this turn, so I'm not recovering my resources. But
yeah,
with a leader like Blue, you're still drawing every turn, so
yeah.
it takes a little bit of extra thought.
Potentially, oddly enough, it's the inverse of Janemba, where you could potentially draw twice on Awakening. So
Exactly. Super Boo's so good. I love that. I picked up the alternate art leader, right like near the end of the set 4 meta. So like I never even got a really chance to play it physically. But like I have it. It's one of my favorite leaders so far. A leader that really just out of nowhere, Namek Goku.
oh
At
my
least for me
god,
personally, where like I thought this leader was kind of but I had enough stuff to build it right at launch with all my boxes I opened, and I played it against a buddy a couple times, and I'm like, this deck's kind of cracked. Like,
yeah.
this is really fun.
Yeah, I'm like you. I was blown away by Namek Goku's performance. I don't know if it was just testing, because I tested Namek Goku quite a bit, like before the set dropped, and something about it when I was doing testing just didn't click with me. And I think that was probably more or less due to the fact that I probably built it wrong, or I was like looking at it from the wrong perspective. But no, Namek Goku is like crazy. The only thing I hate about him is that, well, no, I actually, the fact that he's swinging for 30, like, I don't necessarily care if he draws. Like, he already has enough draw power in his deck to facilitate the fact that he doesn't draw. When, like, the fact that you can, it was really funny. I was watching Jay Fanta. Yeah. I was watching, he was watching, like, I watched his video of his viewers like submitting their matches, and there was one Namek Goku match where a guy literally played 5 pot of greeds back to back to back to back to back on like turn 5 or 6, and I was like, the fact that you can do that in this deck is crazy.
Dude, it's so good.
Now you're doing nothing that turn, which is unfortunate, but the fact that like you basically drew 5 cards because you're replacing the pot of greed in hand with one of them, but you drew 5 cards without really removing hand size. You're set up defensively for that turn, and on the off chance that like your opponent forces you down to 1, doesn't double strike you, and you're able to place the secret rare right off of that and just go all in with everything you just drew. Like, there's so much potential. It's just the thing that I don't like about Namek Goku is that he's very restrictive right now.
Yeah, I could see that. I'm actually pulling up some of the cards right now because what would you say a leader is that you did not expect to get as much support as it did, but got a lot of amazing support and has actually like gotten a lot better. A leader you didn't really think about, or that could handle the support or use the support properly, but is actually doing really well.
I would probably say, in terms of what surprised me, U7.
U7? Okay.
Yeah, U7 got like 3 new U7 cards, I think, this set.
TN.
Yeah, he got the new TN. The new TN meta, like, it actually feels good to play like that free play TN tech out. Like that, because when was that 3-cost TN introduced? Was that set 2 or set 3?
I think it was set 2. I think.
Maybe
it's all Red's all been just like tournament of power U7 stuff for like 4 sets straight. So
yeah, so like so like you got so U7 Goku got the new TN. It felt bad to use that beforehand because the only TNs you had to play off the 3 costs were the vanillas, the vanilla 1-drops, which were good cards for what U7 was doing. But then the other one you had was the blocker TNs, and like, why are you cheating out 3 blocker TNs that are gonna die from Sinister Sickle anyway?
It's gross.
But like now you have a new Self Awakener. Like the craziest tech you can do with that is that on on turn 3, you protect yourself to stay at 7 energy, right?
Yeah.
To stay at 7 life. You play 3 cost TN to play 3 of the Self-Awakener TNs to go to 4. You awake, so you're still at the same cost in hand, or same amount of cards in hand from doing that. And then you awaken and you swing. You're still +2 in hand, regardless. And like the fact that you have on turn 3, you have like a bunch of 20 and 25k swingers, like 5 of them, I think, in that particular matchup. Like, I think U7 like plays best when you're playing like the very low end stuff, and you only run like a couple of 5 costs or the secret rare when you need to, because like
I can see that.
Yeah, like you literally just play out all your TNs when you can. You run like the 1 cost freezes that go to 25,000 when awaken. Like it's like U7 just surprised me. Like it's not like a meta deck by any means, but like the fact that I'm seeing a lot of people play it, I think is really cool.
I can see that. U7 got a really nice bump. The leader that I was thinking of, you're gonna think this is kind of weird, but Broly got a bunch of just indirect support, where I'm seeing this deck actually is kind of a rogue style deck, where like you ramp up because Broly just has a good time ramping. You lose a life, but you ramp it when you awaken, and thanks to certain cards like Dende and Unlockability, you can just recover life. And Broly already being a big tanky leader in a color that has a great time ramping and just being defensive in the later game, Broly's starting to actually be really very annoying of a deck to play.
Yeah.
Because think about it like this. I saw a match where the guy went down. He didn't awaken at first. He went down to 2 life. Then he awakened, putting himself at 1.
Mm-hmm.
And then in that moment, he's able to play, because he had ramped up to like 9 energy. He's able to play the Secret Rare Goku from set 5.
Okay.
So he's able to play a big double striker for only 3 energy. And in that same turn, he's able to play Unlockability, which is if your life is at 1, you go back up to 3 life.
Yeah.
And then you have other cards like the Dende that if your life is at 1, rest this card, add the top card of your deck to your life. And then he still had energy left over to play Gigantic Meteor, and he still had options like the Earth-Shattering Blow. So you have all these Broly being a really defensive tanky deck, and you have options of letting you recover life and just kind of keep up that ability, because then you can, if you run multiple copies of Unlockability with how much energy you have, and you have cards that can grab cards from your life, like say you get the charge one early on, you just play a Roshi, get that card back to your hand, you're able to keep your life you're able to stabilize your life quite frequently, and being a 25k leader on offense and defense, as we've seen, is pretty good too, with a lot of these go wide decks that usually with like 20s. So then your opponent has to combo something to get over it, which they're just removing resources. It's surprisingly, I think, against the right decks, Broly is going to be a problem. I don't think he is like meta relevant right now. Like, you're not going to see Broly's taken like top 16 places or anything like that. But I think it's definitely a deck that is really cool to see. Really cool to have gotten support and see it doing well.
Yeah.
Because there are Broly fans out there, my brother included is a huge Broly fan. Yeah, it's just, and then of course Zamasu
got such a glow up.
He went from like a really tanky deck, like being like the most tanky deck in set 2, to now being like the tanky control deck in the meta. And and people are like, oh, nobody's playing Zamasu, it's not a good deck. I'm like, wrong. No one wants to play Zamasu on the client because they don't want games to last 45 minutes. There's a difference.
Hot take. As soon as I'm done with all of my showcases, I'm actually thinking about going up the ranked ladder with Zamasu. I'm thinking about being that guy. So.
want to be. I don't have much time to play the client, in during the day. So like I'm trying to get as many games in as I can, so I can't play Zamasu. It hurts me because I want to, but I need to get like if I can get 2 games in during the time I can play 1 game of Zamasu, like
Yeah.
I gotta take it.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I can see where you're coming from with Broly. I still think Broly probably hurts in the red matchup though a lot
It's rough.
because I mean Sphere still exists. The burn damage.
Red decks are running Sphere though.
I've still run into a lot of red decks that run Sphere.
Okay.
I ran into some Daima decks the other day that was running Sphere. That threw me off. So it was.
I haven't seen any, so I was just surprised when I'm like, oh, no one's going to be maining Sphere because no one thinks about Broly anymore.
Yeah.
But like,
I mean, because it's still a good card. It still removes something off your board while also burning a life with like very little energy too. Like it's
right.
So I mean, it's still a great card. And then you take into the account like Glorio exists, so Glorio is just going to minus that extra buff that Broly gets anyway down. It's still like a tough matchup for Broly. But the only Broly deck I've run into is like someone running the mid range support where they use like the Vegeta Field. To like ramp themselves back up when they use their leader ability.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
That's and like that was a cool tech. That was a cool strat. I think I fought that in my Daima 2 showcase. I think it was my Daima 2 showcase, and it surprised me because he was running like grade 8 Vegeta in that as well. So he was still running like heavy oppressive like double strikers in that deck. Like
right.
But no, Zamasu got like a huge glow up. I really like what Zamasu's doing. That 4-cost Zamasu that makes him a 30k defensive leader is insane. And the fact that you can just cheat that out with 6-cost is crazy.
Oh, I'm so glad 6-cost is a thing again. I love that card. I bought Alt-Art playset for about $15 each. So I spent like $60 on a playset, and then just nobody was running 6-cost anymore. And they went down to like $5. I'm like, damn it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so happy I have those cards though.
What do you think of? We're gonna get into the really controversial topic. What do you think of Vegito?
All right, man. As a residential blue player, I feel like it's my obligation to talk about this. I think Vegito is really fun. I think he's a good leader and a good deck, but he is so heavily RNG. Mm-hmm. That it is going to make a lot of people be pissed off playing him because the forced milling in a game where like you need to see certain cards and you don't want your opponent to see certain cards go into the discard pile. I mean mainly the super combos. It is one of the worst feelings in the world when you're like doing your top 10 mil when you awaken and you just happen to put 3 of your 4 super combos in your discard pile and you're just looking at your opponent with a big shit ass grin on their face, just like, oh, you don't have any super combos anymore.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about swinging big into you anymore. And well, I mean, like Vegito has his 4 pseudo super combos in Savior of the World, but like it's just the top 10 milling can hurt you really bad if you get stuff put in there that you really don't want put in there, like your super combos, your boss monsters, because you don't have any way to recur those. And I think when playing Vegito, that moment, the top 10 is going to be your deciding factor of, am I winning this or am I losing this? Because it all depends on what you see. There are games I've played where I didn't see any super combos get dropped in there, and I thought like, oh god, we're good then. There are times where all my super combos went into the discard pile, including like another one of my, including a Savior of the World. So I was like, well, I'm boned. And there's some really cool moments where I was able to squeak out a win just by swinging like an absolute truck 3 times in a game on the same turn. It's weird. It's like that weird it's that RNG high, if that makes sense. Where like when everything goes your way, it's awesome, it feels good. But when things don't go your way, they just kind of keep going downhill, and you just kind of admit defeat in that aspect. But
Yeah.
I really like Vegito. I just hate the fact that his whole thing is around milling, and there's not enough ways for you to recur things, as at least not in any meaningful way that makes it feel worth it.
Yeah.
Because then you also have to look at your discard pile at all times, or sorry, your deck at all times. Be like, how many cards do I have left in deck? Okay, I can't play any cards that make me draw one. There's just so many things you have to look out for while playing that deck. So like, it's a mixed bag for me. I really like it, but at the same time, there's a lot of problems with it.
Yeah. I mean, I've in terms of like, it's hard to say because I look at Vegito as like a better Goku Black. But it's RNG in like, it's because it applies in the same vein that like you need to see your cards. You need to you need to have your RNG work in your favor to be able to do the things you want to do. And so while Goku Black kind of needs it in terms of the searching aspect, it's like you said, like Vegito kind of needs it in the fact that he needs to see his Self Awakeners early. He needs to see his milling cards early. He needs to not lose important cards when he mills off Awakening. Then it's also the fact that you need to be cognizant of what is going on with your deck. Like I feel like 6-cost Vegito, I feel like you still run a copy or two in the deck because sometimes you just need that extra double 40k to 40 and 50k swing. But it feels like a trap to run that card in the deck. I think a lot of like I know like during testing I was saying that like, oh, you can get like if you play 6 costs out off marker on turn 5, and then you play 6 costs follow up right after that, you get 5 40k swings. Your opponent can't handle that. But the reality is that you can't handle that either.
The stars have to align, magically in a perfect way for that to happen, and that is so difficult in this deck. I think.
There's other cards in the game that can remove 6 costs with ease. Like going up against another Vegito deck, like that is doing the same strat as you. Like they can just remove one off your board, and then they'll just continually swing into that other one to remove it, and then you lose because of deck out. So it's like,
8-cost Broly's still a thing. 8-cost Broly just KO something on board, and then just swings 45 into something else twice.
Secret rare UI Goku minuses him down by 20, and then you got a 40k swing to contend with.
It's gross. It's real bad.
And then like if that's not the only thing that he's got, then you have to deal with other swings. Like if a Glorio's still on board, like you're at 20 now, Glorio can just swing in to remove it.
It's real bad. It's real bad.
Yeah, so I mean, I do like Vegito. I like what he does, and he's generic enough where like you can build it a number of ways and it can work in your favor. But I think because of how with him milling, you have to build it a specific way. And I think with some more support, I think Vegito could actually be pretty good. But as he stands right now, I don't think it confuses me when people sit there and they're like, "Oh, Vegito's the best blue leader," and I'm like, I have no idea how you can say that. It's like
Zamasu is in the room.
Zamasu is in the room doing the things that he's doing. And then people also I think people still overvalue the 4-cost SR Vegito too.
This man is the best leader. The best blue leader. I will not take any. As much as I love Vegeta and Vegito and Gohan, no, Zamasu is best leader.
Yeah,
best blue leader.
I agree with that. But yeah, it's weird. Like I get it. People love Vegito and they don't want Vegito to be talked badly about. And I understand. Like he's a fan favorite, but we have to look at it realistically and see that he's a fun leader. He can be a good leader, but you have a lot working against you, especially with the way the meta's panning right now.
Exactly. I don't know. We'll have to see what kind of support he gets in the future. But what do you think about Daima Goku? You brought him up. Daima Goku nuts.
Yeah, he's nuts. I know there's a lot of discussion between the starter deck Daima Goku and this Goku. And I think the answer really just stems to the fact that while you can run a lot of the same support in both decks, one is clearly a control deck, the other is an aggro deck.
Yep.
So if we're looking at what control is doing in red right now, the Daima minusing support is not good enough compared to other generic stuff.
Right.
So like, and it sucks because you want to run a lot of Daima cards because a lot of Daima cards have 10k combo, and red hurts for 10k combo at the moment.
Right.
So when it comes to starter Daima, you have to build with more generic red, and generic red isn't inherently bad by any means. Like, generic red is still pretty good. Fua is still a strong minusing card. Secret Rare UI is still really strong. The other Secret Rare Goku in Daima can work for you with his minusing potential as well. What Hellas minuses, right? Hellas doesn't KO.
Yeah, I think Hellas minuses.
Yeah, minus is 20 if they're at 30,000 power or more, I think. So yeah, like there's some good generic minus control aspect stuff, but there's just other decks in other colors that are doing control better than what control in red is doing right now.
Right. I think if you're going to control in red, it's probably better to play Beerus, but Beerus is also kind of rough unless you awaken real quickly. So maybe it's just Daima Starter Ku is probably better overall.
Yeah.
Though, like, but I don't know. Like, the fact is with Starter Daima and SS Daima is just I can buff up something and minus something with Starter, but I can only buff something with SS Daima, which is great. You throw down a Glorio and you buff it to 35, and then you just swing 35 twice into your opponent's leader, who's now a 15k for the most part.
Yeah.
Like, that's gross. And then you drop another Glorio and you just repeat that same process again. It's disgusting. Yeah. But
and both,
I don't know.
And both decks still
like that.
Yeah, both decks play very differently. Like, it's like you could still run Glorio in Daima Goku, and he's still a 30k swinger regardless. In terms of numbers, it doesn't feel as good as Super Saiyan because your opponent can just super combo, whereas in Super Saiyan Daima Goku, they have to super combo and something else to block those swings. Yep. Like, more times than not, your opponent is going to take one of those swings in Super Saiyan Goku, Daima Goku, than they are in Starter Goku. But I think that's part of the point, is that Daima Goku, like, is meant to, like, you're meant to play as control-y as you can, or at least to a degree. You build up your board to a degree, you play control, and just make it so your opponent awakens you first. Then you rely on your Glorio swings and whatever board you have remaining after that to just go in on leader. Like, Super Saiyan Daima Goku does not care about your board whatsoever. Because if you have a board, but you have nothing in your hand to over combo to force me to take life, then that puts you in a bad spot as opposed to me. But Starter Goku, I still think has a place. He definitely, like, again, like, you build just generic red stuff with a lot of control aspects thrown in there, and Starter Goku is going to be able to get you there easy, especially with Secret Rare. Like, you get Secret Rare on board with Daima Goku, it's just too good.
So good. I never even pulled one of those Secret Rares. Out of my 5 boxes of set 4 I opened, I never pulled a single Secret Rare UI Goku.
Really? Wow.
It was all Vegito or alternate leaders, which, I mean, I'm not complaining. I wanted the Vegitos and I want alternate leaders, but like, damn, I can't play red competitively because I don't have the best boss monster for it.
Yeah, that's my issue right now with green. Like, I think I traded a lot of my green stuff back in set 2 and 3 because I just wasn't playing green. Like, I nothing in green really, like, caught my interest to really want me to run green, so I traded a lot of it away. And now that green is kind of shifting from get to 8 energy as fast as possible, and it's doing other things now, like, now it's like I want to play green, but I can't play green.
That's what I get you.
I actually have I have some cards that should be delivered today for I got a lot of those dual attacker promo Gokus for Namek Goku. I got my 3rd Secret Rare Goku. and I think I got like an alt art, like 5-cost Gohan from set 2.
Nice.
Because I traded all those, and I'm like slowly starting to get my green stuff back.
Nice.
But the thing being too, and I forgot when I ordered it, out of the 5, I think I got 4 boxes of set 5. I didn't pull a single Namek Goku leader.
Wait, out of 4 boxes?
Out of 4 boxes, I didn't pull a single Namek Goku leader at all.
How is it? Okay, I will admit the leader pull rates in this set are not good. You don't get one of every leader like you normally do.
No.
Like, that's the crazy thing I've noticed.
Yeah, but I got like 3 Super Saiyan Daima Gokus. I got 4 Janembas. I got 2. I got 2 or 3 of the Vegetos. Like, I have like multiple copies of every other leader, but not a single Namek Goku. It's crazy.
Oh my, that's nutty. Well, my buddy, I think he every time he opens any of the new sets, he always pulls the alternate art red leader every time.
Interesting.
He's pulled it out of everything. He's like, well, I guess Destiny is telling me to play red because that's all I ever pull. In fact, during set 3, he got 3 boxes and pulled 2 alt art Jiren leaders.
What?
Yeah,
That's crazy.
he was like, "Are you kidding me right now?"
Opening these booster boxes is like the most fun part of playing any card game. It's just like, because like dealing with stuff like that is what makes it really interesting and fun.
Exactly. You never know. Like right now, my LGS has like I think 3 or 4 boxes of set 5 left, and we've done the math. There should be 2 alternate leaders in those boxes still. Like there should be, because my buddy pulled an alternate Janemba out of the 5th box he opened. So like they're doing the math. There should be 2 of those that have an alternate leader in them, and I'm like, is it worth it? Is it worth buying a whole other box just for an alternate leader I could buy online for like half the price of the box? Or
Yeah.
But like you get other alt art cards, you get I think it's still worth it, especially my LGS selling them for like $70 right now, which is real low.
That's pretty low, yeah.
I don't know. Like I might buy another box today. Who knows? But oh yeah, one more leader that we haven't talked about. Gogeta.
Yeah, so I actually love the Gogeta deck. It is so much better than I think a lot of people give it credit for. It's definitely the underdog of this set. I think people look at the fact that he doesn't draw on Awakening, which I agree is stupid. I think for as generic as his leader ability is, he should have at least drew on Awakening.
I can see that.
But they looked at his ability and was like, oh, he can generate a marker. Well, there's battle cards that kind of do that for you already. Like, it doesn't really do much. But, like, the fact that a lot of the support that you run in the Gogeta deck, there's 2 ways you could build it right now. You can use a lot of the Another World support, which, in my opinion, is the wrong way to play it. the Another World support is not great outside of maybe, like, 2 or 3 cards. Or you can run it on the mid-range build, and just draw to infinity while you play the game.
Yep. Draw.deck.
Like I don't know if I would say, like, I think Baby is still better because the amount of offensive pressure, whether you're doing the aggro build or the mid-range build, is just second to none in Black right now. Like, I don't think like the fact that Baby got 2 cards that do so much for Baby, they got the what is it, the 3-cost 25k power leader, not leader, Super Baby 2 that you play that like in unison with the SR Baby that draws. But that one is just draw 2 cards, discard 1, which is of no consequence to Baby because you just throw Brainwashed away, you can get it back later. Then you have the self-awakening, Bulma that switches to rest mode, draw a card. You can just combo it while it's rested. Like, and you ideally you combo that off of one of those 3-cost babies because you get so much draw advantage just by doing that. The Baby, I think, is just really hard to, like, in terms of what the support exists right now, it's hard for Gogeta to be better than Baby. But the amount of offensive pressure that Gogeta is able to bring while also getting a lot of your marker effects off to draw or whatever the case may be is still like there's a lot of 30k swings in Gogeta that you can make.
Yeah, it's gross. Like all of these, like Black's kind of a weird spot. I've heard people say like, oh, GT Goku's the best Black leader. Baby's the best Black leader. Gogeta is. There you got some great decks to choose from. Sorry, Bardock. But there's a lot of really cool play lines, a lot of cool deck iterations you can play. Then you can make an argument for really like any of the Black leaders to be like the best right now. But I think you're right. In my personal opinion, I think Baby is still, numero uno. It just can do a lot of things that the other decks can't do, but it can still have access to a lot of Black's best cards. That SS3 Goku is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's such a good card. But yeah, like, what would you say what would you say the top 3 decks in the format right now? Just top 3. Well, I guess, what you believe are the top 3. Mine, personally, right now would be Janemba, Zamasu, and I think SS Daimaku are, I think, are the top 3 right now. While you're thinking about that, I just think Janemba is just very, very good. It can be piloted in so many different ways. It can be played in so many different ways that it's the most malleable, if that's the right word, malleable deck to build, and it can go great into any type of matchup. You have Zamasu, which is an incredible control deck once it gets going and once it gets its engine running. Like, it is damn near impossible to kill. And then, of course, Daimaku, with just the raw aggression that it has such great consistency purposes. The top 4 search Neva can grab any good piece in your deck, including your Glorios, which are essentially your boss monster. Your Glorio combined with your leader ability is just absolutely devastating for endgame. There's a lot of really great low to the ground cards that swing big in Daima. There's just a lot of great things about that deck. I'd say those 3 right now are probably my picks for the best 3 decks in the format, but I feel like this is we're in such a great meta spot right now where you could ask that question to people and get so many different answers.
I think the meta is balanced enough where I think you could pretty much make any list, and I think you would have an argument for any kind of list. Within reason. Within reason. But I think for me, I still stick to the idea that Super Boo is the best yellow deck right now. Janemba is definitely the best leader. I won't argue that Janemba is the best leader because he's generic enough, whereas Super Boo is heavily restricted on how you build that deck to make the leader go off. But I think the Super Boo deck itself, it's so consistent, it's so aggressive, and it's so detrimental to your opponent and what they're able to do because of the hand destruction.
Right.
There's a reason that there's a lot of people complaining about Super Boo right now on the rank ladder. There's a reason. It's not, and it's not, and that's one reason why I can't put Janemba above, because Janemba can be annoying to deal with, but I don't see nearly enough people complaining about Janemba as opposed to Super Boo.
Okay.
I will agree with you that I think Zamasu's probably up there. Probably second. I think if there's anything that Zamasu needs at this point in time, it would maybe be an extra aggressive body. One extra aggressive body would probably be the only thing he would need. And even then, because of how high he can just build up his energy threshold, that's not even really much of an issue when you got 6 cost Goku Black, you got the 4 cost new Zamasu that swings for 30k. You get you're probably still running Satan City Gohans. You're still probably running some of the more mid-rangey, some more mid-rangey stuff in there too. There's the Blue's not lacking for offensive pressure, but in terms of archetype specific aggressive battle cards, I think there's probably one that you could probably incorporate into Zamasu to make him better. But I mean, he's not hurting for draws. He's not hurting for defense. He's not hurting for free playing or controlling. So it's just there's really not much he needs outside of that. Third's hard. I would say I want to say Super Saiyan Daima Goku, but I kind of want to. I don't want to necessarily piggyback off of your list either. So I think, and I think this is going to change on my tier list video too whenever I get around to revising that. But
Yeah.
I think Namek Goku is probably third.
He was close for my third too.
Again, he's the only downside is that he's very restrictive and you have to get the right hand in order for him to really pop off. I've had games with Namek Goku where I pulled all my battle cards but could not find any of my pot of greeds, and that really hurts going into the later game when you don't have a hand. So there's moments where Namek Goku can fumble, but just what he's able to control the board early game extremely well. He's able to consistently stay aggressive because of the promo Goku. Just being able to swing 25k twice with a 30k leader swing on top of that, like that's really hard to get around. Especially when you have multiples of those on board. It's very scary for your opposing player. And then just doubles, like a 3-cost, a pseudo 3-cost 45k double strike with a potential extra 20k combo and crit is just so obscenely broken. Not broken. That's not broken. It's like you have to commit resources and you have to time it right to get that to actually like go off. It's not broken, but it is very oppressive.
Very
to have
much
to deal
so.
with.
It's gross. Yeah. I honestly, this is just so much fun. Like everything about this set has been very refreshing. And I know we probably say this about every new set that comes out because like yay, 3 months we get new cards. But this just, I feel like I don't know where they're going to be able to go from this because, like you said, there's obvious power creep in this set. A lot of leaders just aren't really worth playing anymore because we got these new shiny ones that just do way better things. But set 6 is coming out like when set 6 drops, and we know we're getting Super Broly. We know we are getting him at least. Which we all know Broly just kind of does crazy things in every card game he's ever put in.
Yep.
So like we know he's going to be nuts. And can only imagine what other leaders we're getting.
I mean, we only speak highly like every single set, at least the past couple sets, because like the game's been getting better. It's not this game is nowhere even close to what set 2 was doing, and that's a good thing. If the game is continually just improving as the sets go on, there's an argument where you could play Masters or this game and you would find fun in either or. Like you can get enjoyment out of multiples of these games. Like right now, especially with what like Masters is doing right now with the very little bit that I know of Masters, but like with the new set coming out too for Masters, like there's an argument that justifies both of these games existing right now.
I'm having fun playing Masters. I'm having fun playing Fusion World. Like it's a good time.
Like and like we couldn't say that 3 sets ago. We couldn't say that we couldn't say that Fusion World can exist while Masters exists 3 sets ago. But we can say that now because of how well the game currently is sitting at. So
yeah, you can see like hell, Eggman said like he was done with Fusion World for the foreseeable future a couple sets ago because he was just tired of every tournament's the same, every deck list's the same, like it's just top coup, it's just the countermeasure to top coup, and it's not fun. Now like he posted a recent video saying that like he's played over like 100 games of this new set and he's loving every second of it. He actually feels like he's had to like take time away from other card game coverage to play more Fusion World, which is super cool.
yeah.
You have players like Dane Reich, who's one of the best Masters players in the country, who's a diehard Masters fan, and even he's come out and said like, like oh yeah, like every set Fusion World's getting more advanced, it's getting more like you can build the decks are being built more intricately. There's more like tech options now.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just like you build like this is the deck, this is how you build it. Like there's so much creativity in this game now because there's so many more options, and every set we're going to get more options, and it's going to get better and better. So people just check out the game, check out the client. It's free. Get
Yep.
you some, get you learning some stuff, and
There's
then
plenty of free
hop in.
stuff for new players. Like
Yeah, there's so much stuff.
like
Holy crap.
literally just play the game and you will have like what is it, like 50 free packs or something that you can get?
Yep.
Like something like that from all the different sets. So
Right.
it's definitely a good time to play. Now, props to Bandai. You're doing a good job, like course correcting with this game. We the player base do appreciate that. Now, if only you could just be a little better in terms of where you place your regionals.
Jesus, dude, like, yeah, I'm waiting for regionals to be announced in the Midwest, like somewhere in the Midwest. Like Peoria, Illinois has been like a very good place
Yeah.
for regionals in the Midwest, at least. Like it's a 4-hour drive for me and my buddy to head there, but yeah, I'm not flying out to Texas. I'm not flying out to California. I'm not flying to Canada. Like,
Yeah, like there's like I'm on the East Coast, so I can't make it out to any regionals this set because California is just, that's too much money for me to spend to go out and do that in regionals in California. And Canada is a potential option, but it's in May and I'm already taking a trip in May, so I can't justify putting more money into traveling in that month. So if we could get a little bit more variety in terms of regionals going forward, Bandai, that would be great. Obviously, we gotta work towards that. It's not something that's gonna happen overnight, but if we can get it to a point where, like, no matter what time zone you are in the States, that anyone can go to a regionals, and it would be like everyone, like as long as it's not restricted in any way.
Right. Yeah, like if we can't have that, then at least give us more options for online, for online regionals where we can play, good webcam events. I don't like webcam as much as in person, but like if it's the only option I have, I'll take it.
Yeah.
But
and there was
people more options.
Yeah, and there was the online regionals that they had at the end of last year, around fall time, I think it was.
Yeah.
I can't believe it's already been that long, but obviously there was some tech issues with that. There was a lot of infrastructure issues to kind of make sure that ran seamlessly. But like from what I heard, the latter rounds before the finals, they kind of corrected that quite a bit. So I can only assume that it's a lot better. It would be a lot better this year than it was last year. So it's always an option. But all right, well, that is an hour and a half into this episode. It's been a while, so I think we could justify the longer runtime, I think, on this particular one. But we'll go back to our normal hour slot going into the future. Thank you guys so much for listening. This has been KamehaRadio, a Dragon Ball podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed the discussion that we had today. I want to thank Phil for coming in and filling in for David this week. His channel will be down in the description below if you're watching this on YouTube. Phil, do you have anything that you need to plug or anything before we head out?
Oh man, no, just I do. If people don't know me, I do Fusion World content, post gameplay, deck list, all that fun stuff. I love Fusion World, love Dragon Ball card games in general. Big Dragon Ball fan. Subscribe to this channel because this man's putting in work. This man puts out good stuff, so you should help support him.
Greatly
you.
I mean, I greatly appreciate it, buddy. But all right, everybody, thanks so much for listening in. We will see you guys all in the next one. Have a good one.